advice to somebody who is
would
just
say nobody in the space is an expert because the space security is going to be important no matter what.
Welcome to Token 2049 in Dubai. My name is Madiha Khan. I am from Voice of Crypto, and right now I have with me Daryl Hok, who's the core contributor of Seamless. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Let's start off with what Seamless does. What really is the role?
Yeah, Seamless is the largest and the first base native lending and borrowing protocol. The focus is to be able to enable secure lending and borrowing markets in a decentralized fashion while also integrating strategies. So there's more automation in the process.
Talking about automation, there is so much happening in this space in the past 1 decade. What do you think are the potential security breaches that we'll have to sort of overcome?
Yeah, I think a lot of this in the space, and people have gotten accustomed to it, is just making sure that when you put your capital or your tokens in an app, that it stays in the app and doesn't leave the app. And so the way Seamless was built was starting with the proven contracts of Aave v3 to make sure that when users do deposits and have their capital sitting, it's not that there's any sort of control on the smart contracts or anything like that. It actually works as it's intended, and it's formally verified to make sure that that is the case.
If I may so ask, what was what's your journey been like? When did you really stumble upon to this world, and what was your initial perception about Web3 and about the crypto market?
Yeah, that's it's been quite a journey. It's been several years at this point. But when I first started, I didn't know exactly what tokens are used for or the power behind them. I started as the COO at CertiK, the largest smart contract auditing firm in the space. Because what I felt was, even if I don't know where the technology is moving, security is going to be important no matter what. So there's going to be no reality in which the space succeeds while not having security. And so on a personal level, I wanted to dip my toes in, but really start on the security side. But that's also helped me uncover some of the problems in the space or some of the vulnerabilities that are common, and really make sure that it elevates in the perspective. As I'm a contributor, I want to make sure that what I can help contribute is secure and has that top of mind, as opposed to just focusing solely on speed or things that might be easily manipulatable. We want to make sure that anything we do is actually tested, proven, and checked twice, 3 times or more.
And some of the difficulties that you've personally overcome through this entire journey, or even the market in general, some things that have been a huge learning that you want to share with us.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I've seen in this space is it's really about being there, being present, and putting your hands in as many things as you can. To really understand, nobody in the space is an expert because the space is itself evolving. So if there are no experts, it really is just who is able to play around more, understand a little bit more. It's a space that really focuses on learning. The more you learn, the more perspective you have, versus staying stagnant or just figuring out, like, this is what I know, maybe even leaving the space for a bit. You'll see that changes entirely within a course of months. So my recommendation for anybody who's really passionate about this is just get your hands dirty, play around with things, test it out, get your battle scars, but also learn from them, and then think about what you want to contribute into the space and how you can move things forward.
And talking about passion, every single person who is in crypto and Web3 is very, very passionate. But then there's also that extremely strong technological point. How do you think the technological point is going to evolve this industry and everything that we do in our lives as well?
Yeah, we're seeing some of the top technologists enter the space in a different waves. I think every wave we see, we're actually getting more and more talent, which is a good sign, as opposed to if you're seeing per wave fewer and fewer people here, that means that the talent, technology, and all of that is leaving. I think we're seeing the opposite. We think we're just getting started. There's a lot more to go, but it's very promising because you're seeing so much talent come into the space with so much curiosity, figuring out what problems need to be solved, how can the internet or the digital movement of money be able to power things that were never possible before. So 24/7 markets, or cheaper cross-border transactions, or immediate settlement. These are things that we're all trying to figure out, but very promising to see all of the brains come together and figure out their own approaches to solve these things.
And if you could give an advice to somebody who is just entering this space, a new user, even a child who's really wanting to go out there and make a mark, as an investor, what are a few pieces of advice that you'd want to give?
Yeah, so I would say uh, this is not financial advice, but what I would say is to have an element of curiosity in whatever you do. So test out things, and it doesn't have to be with large amount of capital. It actually probably better if it's not. But test out things, play around with things, and also realize that a lot of these teams are decentralized, and therefore there's a lot of access to the individuals behind a project. That is, so if you have more questions, jump on Discord, ask a question, ask a question on Telegram. I think you'll see a lot of people in this space are actually just trying to help others understand. You do need to make sure that you're talking to the right people and not people who are trying to take advantage of people trying to learn. But assuming that's all the case, I think there's a lot of openness into the builders in this space that's a lot different from what you might see in Web 2. In this case, you could have direct access to people. For Seamless, for instance, the Seamless Discord is the place to ask the most complex questions. The Seamless contributors are there, Seamless community supporters are there. They help answer a lot of things directly, so you have a direct interface into the builders of what can be very successful protocols, and I think that's really cool.
That's great. Talking about a lot of terms, like I just mentioned, that the complexities, especially when it comes to do with some jargon, some abbreviations, some terms, it can be very complex sometimes. What we want to do is right now, just a fun thing, if you could debunk a term for our audience, anything that you could just sort of, turn on your professor mode and explain a term, that'd be really great. Now, this is again something I want you to directly look at our audience.
Just to clarify, by debunk, would you mean to kind of correct what is like a known thing, or just
yes,
define?
either you could be correcting something that people think, falsely perceive, or you could just be explaining anything about it, talking about liquidity or anything like that.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think maybe one term that's a bit complex, but it is core to lending and borrowing protocols, is collateral. I think a lot of people hear about the word collateral and might not know exactly what does that mean. Collateral is the capital that's put down in order to borrow capital. So you have to make sure that you can't just run away with the funds. And so in this case of collateral, oftentimes protocols require you to put down more collateral down than you could actually borrow yourself. So if you do run away, well, that's fine, because the protocol will keep the collateral that you put down. Now, this is getting more and more efficient based off of the evolved protocols. Seamless being one of them, is trying to figure out ways to make it so you don't have to put as much collateral down for some of the things that you're looking to do, and you actually get an extended budget in some ways. And that's what I have defined previously in the conversations about the integrated liquidity markets, so the ability to integrate strategies directly with the position. But just as a simple thing and a starting point is collateral. It's not that scary. It really is just assets that are put down. They can be seized if the capital is not returned, or the collateral is returned if you're able to pay back the loan.
That's great. Thank you so much for explaining that to us. Also, just as a culmination of every single thing that we've spoken about, what I want to understand from you is, what do you foresee the future of this market to be like? And the perspective that I really want to understand from you is, do you think it will be a mainstream market, or will it continue to be a niche?
That's a great question. And it's a question I think if you ask everybody in the room, they'll all have different answers. My thought is, one of the biggest advantages for digital assets is the ability to transfer at rates that are getting cheaper and cheaper, and at speeds that are getting faster and faster. So if you think about that with respect to stablecoins and the alternative of stablecoins today, of like wire transfers or ACH, I do think that that's an area where the mainstream would be utilizing the technology, whether or not they know, because speed and costs are two very important things, and both of those are becoming more advantageous by using the rails.
That's great. Thank you so much for talking to us, and especially for sharing so many insights with us, and also sort of educating us about things.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.